That would be amazing. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. We're in that very, very exciting month, exciting time of the year, the month of Kiyak. It's a beautiful month filled with the praises. When you actually come and attend the midnight praises that we do on Saturday nights, they should be done every day, but especially on Saturday night, we try to cover all the praises of this season. You really realize that God is so beautiful, and God is so giving, and God is so holy in His presence. I would really encourage you in the coming Saturdays, of course next Saturday I know there will be a lot of people in the Sunday school camp, but please come and please take that blessing, because it's really, again, if we come into these seasons and we're not really living the season, we're missing out a lot. We are so fortunate as an Orthodox church that we have these flavors. The year is flavored for us. We have a purpose for every season, and this season we're reliving again, and we're re-appreciating again, and we're re-worshipping again God for His glorious birth that's going to happen, of course, and we're going to celebrate on the 7th of January. So I really encourage you to do that. Apart from that, I'm sure you saw the beautiful Psalms that were saying and were prophetic of God's coming, and how He says, I will come and rebuild what? The Lord will come and rebuild Zion. Who's Zion? Just to give you, I know I've said this before, but just in case this doesn't mean anything to you, Zion was a hill where the temple of God was. There was only one temple in all of Israel, and Zion was that hill on which the temple was on, and therefore it was symbolic of God's dwelling place. And now there's a new dwelling place for God, which is what? Us. And so when you see the word Zion, you put the word, for me, I'll put David. For you, you might put Mary, or Johnny, or whatever the word is. And today is the season, or Kiyak is the season, where God will come in His birth and rebuild us again. Our broken selves again. Our frustrated selves again. Our lustful selves again. He will come and rebuild. So this is a season to really enjoy that. The second part, of course, as we see the church, I'm sure you know, in these coming Sundays, and including this Sunday, give us this beautiful journey of how salvation started in terms of the New Testament. Archangel Gabriel comes and announces to Zacharias. Then we're going to see Archangel Gabriel coming and announcing to Saint Mary the birth of Christ. And then we see the stories after that. What Saint Mary did when she heard that Elizabeth, her cousin, was pregnant with Saint John. And then we're going to also see all the events after that when Saint John eventually was born. So it's a season not to be missed. It's a season not to be missed. You know how sometimes you've got Netflix and it's a season not to be missed. In church, this is a season not to be missed. And we really need to enjoy it and get our children to enjoy it. You'll find something, as we read today, there's sometimes messages that you really need to hear. But because we don't attend Vespers and we don't attend Matins, so we miss out on very important messages. And before Vespers and Matins, the month of Hatur also had a certain message. The month of Hatur we spent in this amazing journey of knowing how to be fruitful. And the church gave us examples of the parable of the sower and got us to realize that for us to be fruitful, we need to not be the wayside, and we need to dedicate ourselves for God to plant the seeds inside. We realize that we can't be the stony ground. We have to apply the word of God. We realize that we have to be also people who do not prioritize anything with or above God. And we saw that as Christ was talking in the 2 last Sundays. He was talking to the multitude and telling them, if you do not hate father, mother, brother, sister, even yourself, if you cannot carry a cross, you cannot follow me. And then he came to the young ruler last Sunday and he told him, if you want to be perfect, go and sell what you have. And the church was telling us and giving us clues, my son and my daughter, if you really want to follow the path of fruitfulness, look at these examples. But they were negative examples. The church gave us in the 2 last Sundays negative examples of what not to do. But this Sunday, there's a beautiful flow. We find in Zacharias and Elizabeth the examples of people that God used and were very fruitful. Very fruitful to the point not only spiritually they were very holy people, but also he gave them the fruit of who? Saint John the Baptist. And I always wonder, and I always think about this question in this season of the year. God, why them? There was other Elizabeths. There was other Zachariases. They say, my beloved brothers and sisters, that the priests at that time would have been in the vicinity of 18,000 priests. That's why Zacharias served the altar by lot. What does it mean by lot? They cast a lot and they picked a name and it was his turn. And he gets this turn probably once in his lifetime. And he serves for 2 weeks. And so him coming to the temple wasn't something, I come to the temple every day and I do this all through the year. It was a very special moment. He had the moment of his life. And God chose this person. Why, Lord? Elizabeth. Why, Lord? There's other Elizabeths. There's other people from that tribe. Why her? And so the church gives us a little clue. It gives us a clue in the Gospels of Vespers and Matins. It goes and tells us in the Gospel of Vespers, in the Gospel of Vespers, it talks about in being Bethany at the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at the table, a woman came having an alabaster flask of very costly oil of spikenard. Then she broke the flask and poured it on his head. And then God, everyone, was judging her for pouring such an expensive oil. And the Lord said, she has done what she could. She has come beforehand to anoint my body for burial. So the church gives us something. I used to think myself, what's this got to do with Christ? What's this got to do with the birth of Jesus Christ? What's this got to do with the birth of St. John the Baptist? I didn't understand. Then I went to the Gospel of Matins. And the Gospel of Matins comes and tells us what? One poor widow came and threw in 2 mites, which makes a quadrans. So he called his disciples to himself and said to them, surely I say to you that this poor widow has put in more than all those who have given to the treasury, for they all put in out of their abundance, but she out of her poverty put in all that she had, her livelihood. But God, what's the relation? And you could see there's a small theme and connection that you can make. The woman who had the fragrant oil and the widow who had 2 mites had something in common. And this is the clue to how God uses us as servants. God said, what about the woman that poured the oil? She did what she could. I'll say that again. She did what she could. I never noticed this verse in my life. For some reason, 40 years of reading the same thing, and I never noticed this verse. The Lord said she did what she could. Then he comes to the widow, and he says something else. He says, other people put out of their abundance, but she out of her poverty put in all that she had. Put in what? All that she had. When you think about it, there's many families that had fragrant oils and no one talked about them. There's many widows and God didn't talk about them. Why did he talk about these 2? He talked about them because they did what they could. They did what they could. Their investment into God was 100%. We live in a generation and in a life, and it even happens throughout history. We see what little we can give. What can I get away with? But when God chooses someone to serve him, the ones that really God puts, he says, I want to see someone who serves me with all that he has. Doesn't give me the crumbs. Doesn't give me the scraps. Doesn't give me, Christmas and Easter. Doesn't give me, maybe when I have time. The person who gives what he cares thinks God, then everything else. He wakes up in the morning and he says, God, I talk to you first, then everything else. He goes to work, and whatever he does, he says, God and the commandments of God above the ethics of my workplace. The person goes to school and he's sitting at lunch with his friends, and he says, God above the conversation that I'm having with my friends. A person goes to university and interacts with the freedom that youth gets at university life. And he says, God and the freedom that I have to serve God. She did what she could. She gave out of what she needed. God above all else. Then we see in this idea, God reiterates it again in other parts. He gives a parable once, and he says there was a person with 5 talents, 2 talents, and 1 talent. We know the person that had the 5 talents gained how many more talents? 5 more. The deacons that are at the front, please. Yes. The person who had the 5 talents, how much did he give? How much did he gain? 5 more talents. The person with the 2, the master, went away, and he left them with the talents, and the one with the 5 got 5 more. The one with the 2 talents, which was an amount of money, he traded it, got 2 more. There was one who had what? 1. What did he do with it? Buried it. We all know that God praised the one with the 5, praised the one with the 2, but then he does something interesting that we don't really focus on. Not only did he condemn the person who didn't use his talents, but he actually took, I'll tell you the verse, and it says what? Therefore take the talent from him and give it to him who has 10. The people that use their life and everything within them for the Lord, not only do they grow, but the person who doesn't use has what was his gets taken because he didn't use it and given to the person who's faithful, who's giving everything that he has, who's investing with all that he has. And you notice, and many times I've seen people grow, and they were people not necessarily talented in one area. For example, they're not maybe talented, I don't know, in studying, but they were talented in another area. But they were faithful in that area. And God would be, and they would grow in that area, And a person who was talented and smart but doesn't study, that gift gets taken from him and given to what? Given to the person who's actually what? Using the talent. My beloved brothers and sisters, this is a very crucial issue. You want fruit? You want God to use you like Zechariah and Elizabeth? You want God to lift you up like he lifted the woman who poured the oil? You want God to do what he did to the woman of the 2 mites? I want you to imagine this. These people, this woman and this widow, if they were just very, very normal people, but God could see what they were doing, and he could see the heart behind it. This widow could have just gone to the temple. There was, I'm sure, 110 widows going to the temple. But God saw the heart of this person, and he saw that this person was giving everything that she had. Everything that she had. That's why when we deal with God, when you're coming to Sunday, you don't come to Sunday thinking, God, I've ticked it. No, you come into Sunday and you say, God, you could see inside me. Forgive me if I didn't give you my best. Forgive me if I didn't give you 100%. Forgive me if I wasn't concentrating with you all the way. Forgive me if I didn't prepare myself completely. Lord, you know what's inside. And also from the positive side, Lord, I know what I'm giving is not much, but you know that this is all I can give. You know, oh Lord, that this is all I have. People who are working sometimes come to me and say, Abuna, so tired from work, so tired from studying, so tired from this and this and this. My spiritual life is drained. I am not with God. And they keep on going in this direction. And I say, fair enough. But can you give what you can? A lot of us are using the excuse of work and university and study and saying, I can't give at all. Today, there's a woman who poured oil and a woman who gave her 2 mites who says, no, you can give, just give what you can. You can't give what you expected to give, but give what you can. Work with that and God will bless and increase. A lot of us are holding back, using the excuse, what can I do? The world and its busyness, the pressures of life. Those 2 women could have used that. That woman could have looked at that oil. That oil apparently could cost about 200 denarii, 1 year's salary. Yeah, around 1 year's salary. If I looked at my 1 year's salary in an oil, I wouldn't be pouring that easily. She poured it. She poured it 1 year's salary down the drain. We look at the 10% of our salary and think, man, that's too much. You know what I can do with 10%? She looked at 1 year's salary and said, God, you're worth it. This is all I can do. I don't know how to preach. I don't know how to do anything else, but I know I've got oil and I just want to show you I love you. She did what she could. A widow that says, God, I don't have except 2 mites. And even those 2 mites, I need it. You know what, Lord? I know that you're the one who gave me the 2 mites. I'll give it to you. You're going to take care of the rest. 100% investment. 100% investment in all sorts of ways. We see another example in the Acts of the Apostles. 2 people, this is a negative example, Ananias and Sapphira. They sold their house like everyone else, but they thought they were smart. You know what? I'll sell the house, but I won't give the whole price to the apostles. I won't give all the money to the apostles. Was that the issue? Was God the house was worth $50,000 and they gave $45,000. So God was upset that he didn't get $50,000. Was that the issue? No, you came saying this is all that I have, but you lied in what you gave. That's not all that you have. We need to wake up to that as well. When you come before the Lord, He knows. Give all that you have. For those of you who have a very sensitive conscience and are crucifying yourselves at the moment, again, I repeat, give what you can. So if all that you can give is, let us say, 5 minutes of prayer, give those 5 minutes. If you used to pray 1 hour in your former life before working and before marrying, that's fine. That was back before you were married, back before you had work. If all you can give right now is 5 minutes, give those 5 minutes. So don't tell me, oh, Buna, but I want to give 1 hour, and you'll never give it and you'll go into depression because you can never give 1 hour. Give what you can. Give what you can. And come before the Lord and saying, Lord, this is all of me. And if, Lord, inside me, I don't know my potential, I can give more, show me, Lord. But don't let me ever lie to you and say that this is my best when it's not my best. Everyone knows their best. May God grant us to realize in Elizabeth and Zacharias that they were 2 very blessed people. As it says here in the gospel, they were what? They followed the commandments of God and they were blameless. And they were faithful all the way. And the last lesson that we learn from them, that even though they were faithful, they got their dream of a child later in life. So sometimes even if you're faithful and if you're giving 100% and you think, where is the fruit? God will give in the right time, in His way, in His time. Let's learn from Elizabeth and Zacharias to give all that we have. The church is telling us today, look at the woman who poured the oil, look at the widow of the 2 mites, and look at the people that God uses. They're not extraordinary people, they're ordinary people that give 100%. May God grant us that, and glory be to God forever. Amen.
The Lord sent Gabriel